I'm James Shillinglaw for Virtual Roadshows, Selling Adventure and Expedition Travel. And we have a great panel here today. We sort of differentiated a little bit here. We had a panel on expedition cruising, which I like all of our panelists, a lot of them offer that too, absolutely. But we're calling it exploration cruises today for sort of beyond the poles and places that you go that are not necessarily Antarctica or Arctic. Although, again, as I said, all of the companies here do all of that as well. So let's get to the panel first of all, and just raise your hands as I mention your name so that they know who's who. We have Nasli Rodriguez, who's the marketing and sales manager for Australis. And we're going to talk a little bit about that company you may not be as familiar with. Wonderful company. We have Lynn Wilson, who's the regional sales manager, North America East for Hurtigruten. And I actually was lucky enough to be on that last summer up in Svalbard. And finally, not last but not least, we have Kelly Pridmeski, who's the director of national accounts for Swan Hellenic, which is a old familiar name for many of us in the travel industry, but this is a whole new Swan Hellenic, as we say. So marvelous ships and everything else. So you're going to hear from all three of these folks, and we're going to talk a little bit about really exploring the world, not just the poles. So let's start right away, and I'm going to ask each of you to briefly describe your company and what it offers and how many ships you have. Kelly, let's start with you. Swan Atlantic, talk a little bit about that and how many ships you have.
Sure. So Swan Hellenic, as James said, we're actually an old brand with 70 years of history behind our name, but we're kind of a new name for many people in the North American market. We became under new ownership in February 2020. So we really relaunched as a new company, but staying true to what the Swan Hellenic name has always stood for, which is the true exploration of the destination, incredible immersion and enrichment opportunities, and going a bit off the beaten path. But
Right.
one of the biggest differences is under our new ownership, they invested in building three brand new expedition vessels. So we have the youngest fleet in expedition. But the thing that makes Swan Hellenic so interesting is our hardware is remarkable, but our itineraries and the adventures and experiences are even better. So that's kind of where we come together. We really marry the adventure of a true down and dirty expedition with five-star service and accommodations, but it's completely unpretentious luxury. And we go all over the world. Obviously, today we're talking about all the non-polar regions, and we're doing the polar regions, Africa, Latin America, Europe, the Med, the Caribbean. So we're delivering these really immersive journeys all over the world.
No, that's fantastic. And I've been on the one ship, and it is a beautiful ship. Lynn, tell us a little bit about Hurtigruten, which you also have a long tradition and a long history as well.
Yes, we are coming up on 132 years of operation. We look great for our age. Thank you for
I
noticing.
know.
But we are the longest running operator along the Norwegian coast. So Hurtigruten was founded in 1893. So we are a single destination product. So Norway with an extension to polar, which we're not speaking about here, but Svalbard. And we fall into the adventure style cruise. We're adventure discovery. So that means we do sail to areas that do have human infrastructure. We're not zodiacking, but we do take characteristics from expedition in that we do have a robust educational program on board. I think what makes us unique is that this is Norway by Norwegians. So one of the benefits of actually being a single destination product is that we do one thing and we do it extremely well.
Mhm.
So we have 9 ships that sail the Norwegian coast, 8 of which that we sell in our market. And essentially, if I could just put Hurtigruten in a nutshell, which by the way, it means the fast route, it's the
That's
fastest way
right.
to traverse the coast with over 1,000 fjords, is basically experiencing Norway by Norwegians. So you will see Norway through the lens of Norwegians. And I think that's what really sets us apart.
No, it is amazing. And as I said, I was lucky enough to try it out. We'll talk a little bit about that later. And Nasli, tell us a little bit about Australis.
Of course. So we don't have that many years as the other two companies, but Australis Cruises, we've been 34 years operational in the Patagonia. So we're an all-inclusive, small expedition and educational cruise that specializes in exploring kind of like a soft adventure exploration through the southernmost part of Patagonia. So we're also single destination in the sense that we only navigate through the fjords of Patagonia. We don't do open seas since our ships, which we have two vessels that are Stella Australis and Ventus Australis, they are designed specifically to navigate through the fjords of Chile and Argentina. And more with that, our crews are what makes us unique besides the destination that we do, which is the fjords and the Patagonia, is that we do a lot of zodiac landings. So all of our excursions, we do zodiac sightings, which are, excursions in the boat as well as dry landings so that we can go to very small, very remote, exclusive access to pristine locations in the region.
And
So
Patagonia is
yes.
a beautiful location. I got down there once going for a polar, Antarctica cruise, and I said, "This is a pretty good place too. Why don't we just stay here for a little while?" And we didn't. We stayed a little bit, but we weren't on a cruise. The goal was Antarctica. So you do a little of that, and you realize you're in all of Patagonia, which is a gorgeous, gorgeous place.
Mhm. One of
Let's
our
talk.
ports is Ushuaia, so that's
Yeah,
why.
so I, of course, I've now been there a few times over my career. Now, let's talk a little bit let's drill down into some of the itineraries that you offer, and we're talking non-polar here. So, Lynn, tell us a little bit about the itineraries that you offer. And I was on one of the ones that are really, you have your sort of freight and mail service all over Norway, and then you have two wonderful ships or several wonderful ships that do a different kind of thing. I think tell us about those itineraries because there's two you offer. There's one I did it in the summer, and then you have
Mhm.
one in the winter, which is interesting.
We
Which
sure do.
yeah, that's where you have the northern lights and all that, right?
Yes, so we are probably the most known in the North American market for our Northern Lights cruises because our ships are floating observatories and we do sail past cloud cover. We're also known for our Northern Lights Promise, the most robust in the industry. See the Northern Lights between September and March, or sail for free. Uh, but what we have in terms of itineraries, you have that the mail route that we call from 1893. We were founded on the basis we were a lifeline to the Norwegian coast. So to this day, Hurtigruten is still a lifeline to the Norwegian coast. It does warrant education. So 7 of the 8 ships that we sell in our market, they are working ships. These are not elements that you will
Right.
see, but they're 34 ports of call over the course of 7 days. So something you need to know about Hurtigruten is that we are so modular. If you can take Bergen in the south all the way up to Kirkenes in the north, if you have clients that are slaves to corporate America, they just don't have that kind of vacation time, totally fine. You can basically do as much or as little. We do have a signature voyage category, which is more of a traditional cruise, not a working ship. It's
Right.
more premium. So that's what you experienced,
That's
the
right.
Svalbard line. So in the summer, we're going to chase the midnight sun. And in the winter, we are basically covering the entirety of the Norwegian coast back to back to back, chasing those northern lights. And then we also have small group escorted tours. They max out at 24 guests. And this is where we're able to add in Finland, overnight in igloo hotels, reindeer excursions, go visit Santa's village. And then in the summer, we have small group escorted tours that will include Sweden, Finland, and Norway, where we chase the midnight sun in that instance. So the sun does not set certain times a year, and the sun does not rise. So it makes it perfect for
It is.
those
It was an
two
interesting
characteristics.
experience. I got to tell you, I done a little bit of it because in Northern Europe it's similar to that in the summers. But walked outside in Svalbard and it just wasn't getting dark.
That's
Every-
why you need the 24-hour clock system because we have had employees in our subsidiary Hurtigruten Svalbard show up at work at 4 a.m. when they're supposed to be there at 4 p.m. because it's high noon. The
You
sun
would think
doesn't
they
set
would figure
between
that
April
out
and
by now, but
August.
maybe that's just an excuse. But we'll see.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah,
now,
perhaps.
absolutely. And Nasli, tell us again about the specific itineraries that you offer for Australis.
Of course. So we are a 4 night or an 8 night cruise. So with the 4 night and 5 day cruise, we depart from Punta Arena or Ushuaia, which are the southernmost cities of Chile and Argentina, especially in the Patagonia region. So we kind of flip our two vessels. They do depart from one port and the other, but then you kind of flip and you can go from Punta Arena to Ushuaia or vice versa, or you can combine and just go back to the port. So throughout your voyage, you see not only the wildlife of Patagonia, but you also see the Chilean fjords, you see glaciers, and you get immersed into the ecosystem since we operate in the summer and spring of the Southern Hemisphere. We operate from September to April. So with that, our itineraries are based in trying to do kind of like following the steps of Charles Darwin, since he studied in the Patagonia as well, besides the Galapagos. So we explore these pristine locations by doing excursions. We do up to 2 excursions per day. So by the time that you do your second excursion, we also inside our vessels provide onboard lectures so that they are done by our expedition guides. And that's kind of like how your itinerary would go about. You explore during the day, and then at night, you'll take in all that you learned, and we'll learn more with our documentaries as well as on onboard lectures.
And that's one of the beauties of exploration and expedition cruising is you're gonna learn some stuff that's really going to be interesting, and it's
Yes.
really this is for an educated customer who really is curious about the world, and in your case we're not, the polars are great, and you can find out, have a similar experience in other parts of the world.
Exactly. Specifically, we actually do, weather permitted, of course, the landing in Cape Horn, which is the last piece of land in South America. So our cruise, because we're Chilean and the lighthouse that is located and active in Cape Horn is directed by the Chilean Navy. Because of that relationship, we're able to do a landing there in Cape Horn. So you'll get to be able to kind of step foot in that last piece of land before, the Drake Passage, and instead the next location would be Antarctica. So it's
And
very
for you cruises, you're not going across the Drake, right?
No, so we do like inner Patagonia and then do a little bit of the open sea just to do Cape Horn, but that's
Yeah,
it.
well, that was it. Well, they used to call it the Drake Shake or the Drake Lake. I was lucky enough on that for the expedition cruises. 5 times was the Drake Lake, and well, no, I'll say 4 times. Once I got a little sea, and then once I did the helicopter, not the helicopter, the airline to King George Island. So I missed that part. But this is to see Cat Patagonia and not have to worry about with that in a way is
No,
is
absolutely
wonderful
not.
as well.
Very lake-like.
Got it, got it. Now, Kelly, tell us a little bit about Swan Atlantic. You go really everywhere, and it's the kind of itineraries non-polar that you have for Swan Atlantic.
Yeah, at Swan Hellenic, our tagline is see what others don't. So we're building itineraries and a brand around this philosophy of what type of experience we want to deliver to our guests. And when you look at our product, we have both ships in Antarctica and both ships in the Arctic by the summer, but we have to get the ships between the poles. So we're
I mean,
basically
they don't just
building.
materialize. They don't just
They
materialize on
don't
the other
just
side, right?
evaporate and appear.
You
So
give
like
a
we're basically building, one-off segments moving from the southern part of the planet to the north. And you could essentially build a world cruise with Swan Hellenic from pole to pole. But if you think of everything in between, like that is actually where like there's so many incredible nuggets and excitement and so many parts of the world to explore. And what's really cool is at the end of October last year, we actually did a press release spotlighting 34 different destinations that Swan Hellenic goes that almost no one else visits. And 9 of them were completely unique to Swan Hellenic. We're really forging a path in many places. Like we were the first cruise line to ever even land in the country of Gabon. We're really developing West Africa.
Mhm.
It's a very strong destination for us. I call it the final frontier. Like, where do you go when you've been to Antarctica? You go to West Africa. We have we go up the entire coast. We do a 20-night crossing for after Antarctica from Ushuaia to Cape Town, stopping in South Georgia, Tristan da Cunha for your clients who are really wanting to go everywhere. And once we arrive to Cape Town, we go up the entire west coast of Africa in about 4 different segments, from
Right.
Cape Town to Namibia along the Namib Desert, from Luanda up to Luanda, Angola, from Luanda to Accra. Like, this is probably our most wild itinerary we offer. There's a 700-mile stretch of completely wild coastline. It's the longest stretch on the entire continent of Africa between the Congo and Gabon that we're sailing along.
Mhm.
And this is not about safaris and animals. It's not like going on a safari. This is something totally different that most people will never experience. It's about connecting with totally off the beaten path villages and people, but in a completely authentic way. It's about exploring the different cultures and history of West Africa. Of course, it's all about the slave trade as well,
Mhm.
and learning about this part of the world that so many people don't understand how much it has to offer and what a rich destination it is. We're going up all the way from Dakar to Casablanca or Dakar to Lisbon, touching parts of Senegal and Morocco and parts of like the Canary Islands and Madeira and Portugal on our way. On the other side, we're going to places off the coast of Brazil that no one's ever gone before. Alabros Archipelago. We're the first cruise line to ever visit this archipelago of islands. Places like Trancoso and Itacaré off the coast of Brazil, like these super lush, exotic. It's not your mother's beach vacation, but it
Yeah.
is a different type of beach vacation with waterfalls and untouched islands. And even going into the Amazon a bit, we have a sailing from Bridgetown, Barbados to Recife, going along Georgetown, Guyana, Suriname, and into the Amazon, visiting some of the narrows in those environments, and coming out along Belém and along this Brazilian coastline. So all of the places you don't even know you want to go to, we can take you there.
Well, certainly, I can't think of anyone who explores Africa the way that you do in a cruise ship, and it sounds like the same as in South America, and you're going to Caribbean, but not any of the places I know. So,
Right.
this is not a Jamaica cruise or a
No.
Bahamas cruise, that's for sure. Now, it sounds fascinating, and it's one of the things I really like about your company that you can go to all these different places, and it really give you a lot of options. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what happens on board these cruises of yours. What is I guess you still call them you have expedition teams. What do they do? And what should travel advisors tell their clients about the experience on board? I'm going to start with you, Lynn, if you can tell us a little bit about, I personally know because I was there, uh, but,
Yeah.
but tell us a little bit about what they can expect when they're on board.
Well, we do have expedition teams on board. You were on the signature offering, so that is the larger team of six. It's a six-person experience expedition team, and then on our original Coastal Express, we have three-person expedition teams. So when you think expedition, oftentimes there's a heavy focus on science.
Right.
But given that this is Norway by Norwegians, we do take a little bit different of an approach. We focus on historical events, World War II, culinary themes. We source 80% of our food locally. So you're going to see the coast, you're going to learn about the coast, you're going to taste the coast, what your advisors should tell their clients. No tight clothing. We do not wear tight clothing on Hurtigruten cruises. Nobody needs that kind of negativity in their lives because all of our offerings are culinary cruises. You will learn about sustainability efforts. We are very well known in the sustainability space. If that is important to your clients, we have themed voyages. We bring on astronomers. We have the only chief aurora chaser in the industry, I believe. So we will teach you about northern lights, culture. About half of the world's Sami population does reside in Norway. Heavy impacts on the Norwegian culture. And in addition to the expedition team, given the fact that these are culinary cruises, the chefs will oftentimes have food tastings. We will present to you Havets Bob bread. We age our sparkling wine underwater in undisclosed fjords for 6 to 8 months on end. Undisclosed because
I'm still trying to find that fjord because I like
hence
that.
why
I
it's
like that sparkling
undisclosed.
wine.
Yes, and this is why it's undisclosed because Norwegians can be a little naughty. If we knew where that fjord was, we would probably make some non 8 to 5 appropriate decisions.
There you
So,
go.
yes,
No, so
but
it's a
cultural
wonderful
immersion.
experience, and because we
Yeah.
don't think of them in the traditional expedition sense in that form, but it's also it's very much a way to get introduced to Norway
Oh,
itself and
yes.
the people. And
Hmm.
I remember we were just off one of the ports, and the town turned out, and they were all singing on the to us because they like the captain said you have to turn out and watch the people singing to you,
Was
and
that Besocket, the town
yeah,
with 150 people? We stopped there as well. I did the southbound. That's the other thing too. We will definitely take you to these villages with 50 people, 100 people, the whole town. There was this little kid. He was holding up a sign
yeah,
that he had drawn the MS Trollfjord, and he said, "Thank you, Captain Ingar
yeah,
Lorentzen." And
yeah.
it's just Norwegians waving the flags, welcoming us. So yeah, we're very celebrated.
No, it was a lot of fun, and we're going to talk a little bit more about culinary in the next section. But Nasli, tell us a little bit about what the experience is like on board. What does your team do, and what should guests experience? What make sure that they experience?
Of course. So on board, we do 2 excursions per day. So you kind of have a bit of like downtime, but I want to say a little bit because there's so many things going on that there's sometimes that thankfully because of the daylight, you do have the time to go into our open decks where you can, because we're always surrounded by mountains and glaciers, you always have the opportunity to go outside and take the beautiful pictures. And we have 3 open decks so that you have plenty of time. So besides that, like I mentioned before, we have the onboard lectures. So throughout your trip, you have up to 2 or 3 lectures that you can attend by our expedition guides that they're very knowledgeable in the area, especially in the scientific and historical portion. So after your 2 excursions, you get the chance to meet up with the same expedition guide. So you have that more personalized relationship to learn more about the history. And even after dinner, you sometimes get a documentary opportunity to learn even more. So that's kind of why we say we're small because we're almost only 100 passengers. And then with the crew that is around 65. So we have that personal relationship with the crew. You'll always see them around, and especially the expedition guides, they'll kind of hang out in the decks with the passengers to have that immersed person relationship. And you get to learn, by going through these fjords and going through these very narrowed Strait of Magellan and Beagle Channel, you get to also see a lot of bird watching, a lot of the whales as well as dolphins that get pointed out through the expedition guides. And not only that, but we do give 2 opportunities, very specific opportunities to passengers. One of them is that they get to visit the bridge and get to meet the captain. So that's one of the things that we do in our cruise, as well as seeing the mechanical portion. So like the engine and kind of like the mechanical room. So those are 2 things that also passengers get the chance to do while on board.
Can they steer the ship too? Well, if I want.
You can take picture in the captain's chair, but
Okay,
that's
there you go.
no touching the radar.
I
But
got it.
it's
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're sailing through fjords and channels. I don't think I want to deal with that. That's for sure.
no, it's very narrow too. So actually a very good fun fact, our captains, the Chilean captains, they are actually certified specifically for these narrow fjords because it's so hard to actually navigate. So they have to get a more specific certification to navigate through them.
Well, I think maybe you should trade with Lynn's company because I know those fjords are pretty narrow too. So that's and I sometimes was like, are we really going through there? And we did. Now,
That's
Kelly,
amazing.
same question in terms of the experience on board. What should our travel advisors tell their clients about what to expect when they're on board in terms of the expedition team or the staff and the experience that they're gonna get?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to what I said in my introduction and really break it down for you. When I said Swan Hellenic really marries the adventure of a true down and dirty expedition with five-star service and accommodations in a completely unpretentious way, there's a lot to unpack there, and it all spells out exactly what you're asking. So when I say true down and dirty expedition, I'm talking about the size of the ships and the experiences we can deliver because of that. Um, both of our ships that we have less than 200 guests on board. So 152 guests on the Vega and 192 guests on the Diana. And that makes us very agile and able to get into hard to get to places, remote places, and to really get you off the beaten path to connect in these destinations that you normally wouldn't be able to. It's the level of immersion that you get from us. We're including an excursion in every single port that we go to. But depending on where we are in these warm weather places, every day could look a little different because one day you might go do like a walk through a conservation area in Costa Rica, and the next day you might go snorkeling off the Zodiac with the marine biologist in a marine reserve. So
Okay.
when you're in these types of destinations, it is a little bit of everything. There's history, there's expedition operations, there's culture, and there is complete immersion, but that immersion looks different. We have citizen science programs as well, and those will vary depending on what part of the world that we're in. But we go to some pretty remote places where it's really hard for scientists to get to those places. So we have partnerships to actually collect data and collect research in these places. And like the Happy Whale Foundation is one of our partners where, we go to Hermanus Bay now, which is we're the first cruise line to ever visit Hermanus off the coast of South Africa, which is one of the best whale watching places you could possibly go. So when you get a picture of a whale's tail and you're able to snap it, that's like the footprint, the ID fingerprint of a whale. You could actually help track whale migration patterns on board Swan Hellenic in some of these places. We even in the colder weather places, which some will still happen in the warm weather places. We're even putting out citizen science zodiacs. So you could go out on the zodiac with a scientist to do research and some actively participate in some of these places. But it's also when you get back on board, you're in the destination, in the field, getting the live play by play in places like Brazil and the Congo. But when you get back on board, you're also getting full lecture series from the experts that we bring on board. And we change out the team members based on where we are in the world. We might have a wildlife conservationist on board in West Africa. When we were in Latin America last season, we brought on a PhD anthropologist who had actually excavated at the site of Tikal, giving guest lecturers in those places. So you're getting the immersion and the education on board Swan Hellenic in such a deep way that's often associated with like true adventure travel.
Right.
But when you get back on board, you feel like you're on a five-star floating boutique hotel.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to talk about that in one of my other questions because I do want to ask about accommodations, and we're going to go back to a little on dining, which we have discussed a little bit. But it sounds amazing, and you got so many diverse experiences because you go to so many places. But I did want to go to about who these clients are, who for travel advisors. Lynn, for Hurtigruten, who should they target for your cruises? Who's the right client for where you go?
I don't think Hurtigruten is going to be many people's first cruise. So this would be, like we have discussed earlier, a well-educated, well-traveled client. They've done all the big things perhaps on the white ships. So akin to Expedition as well. And Expedition, thank you guys, has really opened the door for Hurtigruten as well. But essentially, once they're ready for the authentic, they don't want the commercial, they don't want touristic, they want to really immerse themselves into the Norwegian heritage. heritage. Our clients on the longer voyages are probably going to trend north of 50 because,
Mhm.
12, 14, 15-day round trip cruises, the package tours can go up to 17 days. So that's going to trend skew a little older. But given that we're so modular too, we're also open to the younger demographic for other packaging if they just wanted to do a shorter segment on one of our working ships. But folks who want to travel with meaning, if they care, travel with purpose, if they care about sustainability, Northern Lights hunters, everybody has an
Oh
aurora
yeah.
chaser dwelling inside of them. And we are happy to chase the auroras. And people who chase the aurora together, they stay together. We're
Yeah.
also very laid back, no dress code, no formal nights.
Mhm.
Um, and cultural immersion is what I would say. So, in terms of demographic, if advisors sell river, you have the demographic. If you sell expedition, you have the demographic. We are kind of a mix between expedition with the lecture program
Mhm.
and river, in that our ships are also smaller, maxing out around 500, and that we get real close to the Norwegian coast. And we do fit into those nooks and crannies where the other ships can't go necessarily. So.
Absolutely. And but you also have some pretty excursions that are. I went on a speedboat excursion once that was awesome, where you're really bouncing, and we were going pretty good, and then so kayaking and things like that. So you can be pretty active.
And you can go skiing and you can actually
I forgot
go on a
about that. Yeah, you do
snowmobile.
that.
You can go skiing, you can go snowshoeing, dog sledding, and also you can basically hop off the ship in one port, hop on a snowmobile under the Northern Lights at 1 o'clock in the morning, chase the ship on land, vroom, vroom. Don't forget your license, Northern Lights above, and you catch the ship in the following port. So we have loads of really cool dual port excursions where, just we'll see you in the next port, right? So
That's great.
sky's
That
the
sounds
limit.
awesome. I got to do the Northern Lights one of these days. I did the the summer cruise, which was amazing, but that still is one of my on my bucket list, so to speak.
Well,
But
if you threaten us with a good time, we shall accept every time. So,
there you go. Kelly, tell us a little about your clients and the people that our travel advisors should target for Swan Atlantic.
Yeah, I mean, about right now, about 60% of our guests are coming from North America. And about 80% of our guests are 50 to 70 years old. But there's a great opportunity also for millennial travelers in the 30 to 40 age bracket, just because of the adventurous nature of the places that we're going. And they're traveling more and further than probably any generation before. And it is really for the curious world traveler. We're not looking for cruisers. Like that's not the model customer we're targeting. We're looking for people who are very like educated, sophisticated travelers who really want to go everywhere. They don't want to go where everyone else is going. They want to forge their own path. They're open to all sorts of experiences and adventures. And the low-hanging fruit in your database is past river cruisers. If you've been
Right.
on 3 river cruises, like you really want to design the path that your client's going to take with you. So what's next? Expedition is the next evolution for that client. People who have gone on safaris, like they want to be in the destination, connected to these places, and that is an expedition traveler. And FIT travelers who think that's the only way they can get an authentic, immersive experience is by doing it themselves. They are really the biggest opportunity to put on expedition, which could also transform your business and make your life easier if you can move some FIT travelers into small ship expedition cruising as well with Swan Hellenic. The other place you can really look to for inspiration is our themes that we have, because we do have culinary sailings. We
Mhm.
have SETI scientists from NASA on board select sailings. We have a wellness partnership with Deepak Chopra, and there's different synergies in your own networks and communities that attract new to cruise clients onto an expedition ship
Well,
through
that's what I was going
exploring
to say.
your own
You get first time cruisers who don't necessarily want to cruise, but they want
right.
these experiences.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned something about because I remember seeing the press release. You're also exploring for aliens, if I recall.
That's not quite a shame.
Well, you're doing
So
the set. You're doing the setting
SETI,
research.
SETI is a very important branch of NASA, and it stands for Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence.
There you
But
go.
these are the top scientists in the world who are studying outer space, life on other planets. But how it connects to us is they're also studying life on Earth that flourishes in some of these very harsh
I
climates that
see.
we
Okay.
visit.
So,
So the dots are all connected, and we have about 9 sailings with guest SETI scientists on board Swan Hellenic this year.
okay. So it's not just eating your phone home, right?
We're not chasing aliens, no.
I like the idea, though. That's cool because you do the expedition and chase aliens as well. Um, Nasli, tell us a little bit about the clients for Australis. What kind? Probably somewhat similar to the ones we've already talked about, but tell us a little bit about
Yes,
who our travel
definitely.
advisors should target.
Definitely agreed with the river cruising. Definitely people who already love the expedition and know and want to learn more are the clients to target for Australis. So our clients in general should just be, adventurous travelers, nature enthusiasts, people who are seeking that unique off the beaten path experience. Advisors should target small groups, couples and individuals passionate about nature and the culture of the Patagonia.
Right.
So a lot of our passengers, they use Australis as a part of a bigger program. You go to Patagonia and you want to immerse yourself in the entire region. So a lot of people would, do land experience and then use our cruise, let's say from the Chile side, they'll go and do land experiences in the Chile Patagonia. They'll take our cruise to go to Ushuaia in our 4 night, and then they'll start using the rest of their travels to experience the Argentinian Patagonia side
Right.
of all the attractions that are in the area. We really actually don't have an age restriction. Our average is around 60 to 65 and above. And we don't have an age restriction, so anyone's really welcome to explore with us.
Mhm.
The only restriction that we have is the mobility. So we have no elevators on our 5 deck cruise. And then because we use Zodiacs for all of our excursions, they need to have that level of mobility to go in and out of the cruise to get into the Zodiac and vice versa. And actually, really recently, we've been seeing a lot of like honeymooners. So, the
Oh,
honeymooners,
that's
they don't
interesting.
really, yes, they don't really want, I guess, like that beach or that relaxation. No, they want that exploration. They want that expedition. And we've been seeing and receiving a lot of honeymooners very recently in this season and for our upcoming season. We actually had 2 proposals and everything this current season, which we have some pictures in our social media. But yes, it's been a very, I want to say even kind of like what was said before, the millennials of how they want to explore and get into
Sure.
these very hidden gems, I like to say. And definitely, I think, all of us definitely have those hidden gems acquired. So
Absolutely. No, it sounds fascinating and wonderful. Now, let's talk a little bit about one thing. I'm not going to go how you differentiate as much as I think every one of your guests is wondering, all right, how's the food on board and how are my accommodations? We've talked a little bit about the food and I want to drill a little bit more down into that. So in terms of dining and in terms of accommodations, Kelly, what do you have on board?
Well, I'll start with food.
You
Everyone's
always do.
favorite. The food on board Swan Hellenic is phenomenal. We're getting such high remarks from guests, but also the travel partners who have been on Swan Hellenic
Right.
are raving about our food. I think our biggest point of pride is that everything down to the salad dressing is made from scratch. Like everything, the soup, the salad dressing, which is not necessarily the industry standard. So we're delivering high quality culinary program, and the great thing about Swan Hellenic is you're getting such a high quality, but like we kind of talked about, there's no dress code on Swan Hellenic. It's super
Mm.
casual. So you're gonna get a fine dining a la carte dinner with wine pairings, and you can show up in your jeans and hiking boots. Um,
So
Breakfast.
like Lynn, we could wear loose clothing because we may gain some weight when we're not hiking all over the place, right?
And I'll have to say, like, the chefs on board Swan Hellenic have put out some dishes where I'm like, I have never seen this on any other cruise line. Like,
Right.
what they're doing is amazing. They have this one onion that's like onion au gratin, and it's a red onion. It looks like, kind of like a very creative dish. and it's stuffed inside.
Wow.
It's just like my favorite thing that I look forward to every time on Swan Hellenic. But we also do have a culinary series of sailings. So we have a partnership with a European group of chefs called Junis Restaurateur that's really cool and different. It's 375 of the youngest up and coming talented chefs in Europe. Between them, they have 180 Michelin stars. So we have 9 sailings this year with a chef from JRE on board,
Okay.
who will do a big gala night dinner, cooking demonstrations, and have a featured dish on the menu every night.
No, that's
Um,
fantastic.
yeah. So the food on board Swan Hellenic is on point. The accommodations, I think, are even better. We have some of the most spacious staterooms in Expedition, and 80% of our inventory is balconies, which is also rare for Expedition. And those balconies are 305 square feet, which is pretty spacious. And almost every stateroom on Swan Hellenic has an electric fireplace that crackles, which everyone
I
loses their
remember that. I do
over.
remember that. Yeah, that was very interesting when I first got on board. And that they are new ships, but you know, they're not live fireplaces.
No,
You
but
can't
it
put a fire
feels
on
like
a
the
ship.
ambiance is amazing. But the rooms are so well appointed, more storage than I've ever seen on in any stateroom on any ship. Rain showers. I mean, even our smallest stateroom is 205 square feet for the ocean views that have massive panoramic windows. And we go all the way up to premium suites that are 528 square feet, walk-in rain shower, walk-in closet, bathtub, like terrace balcony, king size bed. The ships are gorgeous, and they are very much made to feel like welcoming and not
Sure.
pretentious. Like the vibe on board is very Scandinavian because they were built in Helsinki shipyard. So it's like very contemporary, but I like to say you feel like you're allowed to sit on the couch.
No, that's it. I did get a chance a couple of nights on board, and it was a very nice cabin. And the one food the meal I did have was really excellent. Now let's talk. Nasli, tell us a little bit about the dining and the accommodations on board your ships.
Course. So I'll start again with the food. Definitely kind of like what Kelly said. Again, no dress code in our ship either. We just want you to be comfortable and relaxed. You know, after 2 excursions, you will get tired. You don't, you just want to be comfy at the end of the day. So with the food, we do have, our chefs on board, and we do prepare dining room, one seating. Our tables are assigned, and we do 3 meals. Breakfast is actually buffet style, and it's as much as you want for an hour or two before your first excursion, and then by the time your first excursion ends, it's time for lunch. And while the ship moves to the second location for the second excursion, that's when we'll have our lunch, which is a la carte. So during breakfast, your server will kind of like let you know about the options of, lunch and dinner, and then you get to pick what you want beforehand. And not only that, but if there's any dietary restrictions, and, they accommodate anything, because
Right.
with time and with your passenger, you want to have a good time. So we won't limit your food experience just because of any dietary restrictions that you may have. So then after the second excursion, you will have a bit of downtime, but after that it's dinner time. And during dinner, you actually get from the chief of the expedition guide, kind of give you a rundown of the next day, since we're all in the same room. And then after that, you can go to our fifth deck. Our open bar is there, and it has a lot of our kind of like the Chilean national drinks, kind of like the pisco sour, for example. You can have it as original, how the flavor is, or you can have it the calafate, which is actually one of the native plants in the Patagonia region, and they are very famous for the pisco calafate drink.
Yeah,
And
wow,
all of
that's
that,
amazing. Did you bring those cocktails for all of us?
I wish. But yeah, all of that you can get in the downtime on the open decks. In the panoramic for accommodations, all of our rooms are exterior views. You have a panoramic windows. As you go up the decks, we have rooms in the second, third, and fourth. So the second ones have panoramic windows, but they are relatively smaller than the fourth one. So as you go up the decks, the windows do expand. And then our superiors have the biggest windows of our ship, and they're also located in the midship. So if you want a midship cabin, you need to put our superior cabins.
That
But
sounds great.
we have what's it called? We have the standard double, which is kind of like the queen size. And then we also have twin beds, as well as rollaways and cribs if needed. So, we do want to give this experience to everyone who wants to experience it. So that's how we kind of have our accommodations for anyone who wants to do Australis.
Well, like Swan Atlantic, and we're going to go to Hurtigruten in a second. You're not going to go hungry on these ships, and you're going to be very
Oh,
well accommodated,
definitely.
and it's going to be very comfortable. Lynn, let's talk about the food and the accommodations on board your ships. And I'll say a little in advance. Um, I was completely blown away by the food on my cruise at your restaurant called Roost, which is I thought one of the best restaurants at sea. Totally, I didn't I had heard about it, I'd written about it, and it was just a marvelous experience. You talked about the bubbles, the ice champagne, which is I think an English sparkling wine that you put down in the fjords. And that was
Yes.
marvelous, but all the rest of it was actually excellent. So I was totally, and I really was very surprised. But Roost was a great restaurant.
Oh, yes. So all of that is blanketed by the program Norway's Coastal Kitchen. This is an
Yeah,
award-winning concept where we intentionally source 80% of our food locally. That is part of who we are. We want you to taste the coast of Norway, but we also want to support our local suppliers. So this is hyper-local gastronomy. And I always joke, like if you do embark in jeans, odds are good you are debarking in sweatpants, and that's okay because we don't have a dress code. So Norway's Coastal Kitchen is in place for all of our ships. And then we do have the two ways to explore. You can do the original Coastal Express, which would be those working ships still continuing to be the lifeline to the Norwegian coast. You travel alongside local Norwegians, or you can have the food concept on board these signature voyages, Svalbard Line and North Cape Line.
right.
So, in general, with all of our offerings, there's at least one restaurant included. Breakfast does tend to be buffet format. All of the food is clearly marked with allergens. Same thing with lunch, and dinner is a seated affair a la carte. Now, if you're looking at the MS Trollfjord, which is the
Yeah.
operator of the Svalbard line and the North Cape line, we are in danger, people, because this is where the food is just fantastic. So if you are not disciplined, well, we are just going to eat all day. So you have
I,
Flora
I I called it
inspired.
I called it death by tasting menu, but that's another story.
Yes, yes. And I love Rust as well. That is the a la carte fine dining restaurant
Yeah.
that's included for suite guests. You don't even know the menu up front, and they just perfectly pair every dish. So there could be a bringebærvin, like a raspberry wine from Trøndelag, my home region. We will serve you an award-winning cheese. We are home to the world champion of a blue cheese in Trondheim. So, I mean, we got some accolades we can talk about here. So the food is a given across the board, but to manage the expectations, the food is decidedly Norwegian. So you can get burgers, you can get comfort food, but the focus is Norwegian food. And we like to say we invented the fish and the potatoes. So lots of Norwegian heritage going into the dishes. Now, in terms of the accommodations, these ships were all at one point or another working ships, right? So they serve a purpose. So I think it's important to manage the expectations that the suites, they're quite spacious, can go up to almost 500 square feet.
See,
But the
I
non
was lucky enough to be in a suite, but yeah, the other ones are certainly wonderfully comfortable, but they're smaller.
Yes.
So because it is a working ship, or was a working
Exactly.
ship. Yeah.
So the non-suite stateroom, they do run tight, but here's how you overcome and manage the expectations. The whole purpose of a Norwegian cruise is what we call in Norwegian called kos. That's the Norwegian word for cozy. So if you could just picture yourself in a cozy mountain cabin, what are we doing? We're playing cards, we're playing cribbage, maybe Uno, maybe we're knitting, maybe we're cozied up on a
Right.
comfortable chair reading a book. Take that feeling and ambiance and put that on a ship. So when you're talking about the staterooms, no one is coming to sail with Hurtigruten to spend all day in your cabin. If you
No?
are, please don't book us because I'm allergic to angry calls. So we are treating the stateroom as your bedroom. We have 180-degree panorama lounges that will showcase the most stunning coastline in the world. Although, Nasli, your fjords could probably rival mine. But and then that's your living room. And then the
Yeah.
restaurants, those are your kitchens. It's self-service laundry. So this is your home away from home, your base camp at sea. So really just manage the expectations on the stateroom sizes and your clients will be happy. Everything is just about managing the expectations.
No, you're totally right. Everybody goes in the lounges and watches the fjords and the scenery go by. And I'll add one little extra thing is not on the ship, that if you're in Svalbard, and
Oh,
this is
yes.
also owned by Hurtigruten, there is a restaurant called Huset, which is might be one of the best restaurants in the world. It's a Spanish chef who I don't know how he ended up there, and he will do, I'd say, 12, 13, 14. He varies the courses all the time, so you might get 16 courses, and it's wine and beer and whatever pairing. So it was
Yes.
one of the only times, and I had to interview the chef at the end, and I that was after the wine pairing, and that was an interesting interview. I wasn't sure it was really intelligible, but he was a wonderful guy, and you're at the top of the world, and you
Yeah.
don't expect that to be there.
No, there's expats from over 50 different countries in Longyearbyen. And by the way, it is your Armageddon plan. You do not need a visa to live in Svalbard, but if you
This
have a
is true.
cat, you
That you're
must
not
leave
really
them at
in
home. They
nowhere
are
there, which
illegal
is
there.
kind of
And
interesting.
the global seed vault there is guarding millions of seeds. So Svalbard
Absolutely.
is also
No,
really
it
good. But
was a
yeah.
marvelous experience. I got to tell you, I didn't know
Mm.
what to expect. But now let's go to the last question here. And this is really about the resources you have for travel advisors to help them sell more of your exploration cruises, websites, everything else. And let's go to you, Kelly, about where can travel advisors go to learn more about Swan Hellenic and what resources do you have to help them sell?
Well, right now, at this moment, we're actually in the midst of doing what we're calling our Epic Wave webinar series. So, to support you during wave season and to really help you drive sales with Swan Hellenic, we're hosting a different webinar every Wednesday. We started January 8th through March 19th, focusing on a different region that we go to. And we're actually having members from our expedition team join us as our guest speakers to give the incredible insights and stories that they have from being on board. But these webinars are designed for you to invite your clients to. They're client friendly, and we're giving you an exclusive offer for your clients to redeem only through their travel advisor. So this is one of the biggest tools that you can take advantage of right now because we're doing all the heavy lifting and driving the sales back to you. And if you join our Facebook group for our travel partners, this is another big resource because we post everything that's happening at Swan Hellenic here. The group is just Swan Hellenic North America Travel Advisors, and that's the best place to stay in the know. But one of the greatest resources we just added last year is we're now in Approach Guides, which is a fantastic co-branded marketing tool that helps make it so easy to put out content. So we create different content experiences. So for Antarctica or Latin America or Africa, and you actually can upload your logo, your agency details, even your headshot, and you can choose to deploy that content on Facebook, on LinkedIn, even like on a one-to-one email to a client who comes to mind for Swan Hellenic, or even to your whole database. And on that landing, you're basically sending them to a landing page, but it's branded with your information.
Wow.
And on that page, there's a form to ask for more information, and you're generating a lead back to yourself. And I've heard such great success stories from travel advisors who are using this tool. It is like a no-brainer. If you haven't heard of it, look it up.
Yeah.
Approach Guides.
Yeah, and I know those folks very well, and they're expanding, and a lot of cruise lines and tour operators are using their product, and it really is a great way to market.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Nasli, tell us a little bit about the resources and the websites and stuff that you have to help travel advisors better sell Australis.
Of course. So I'll start with websites. We actually have a marketing portal. It's mp.australis.com, where travel advisors can access our itineraries, our brochures, our photos, videos, like any resource that they need to send to clients is there. And if there's anything an additional that they need in the same marketing portal, they can email us so that we can, give them whatever else they need. And not only that, but let's say that you have a client that is more comfortable in the Spanish language, then we have all the languages as well posted: English, Spanish, Italian, because a lot of our traffic actually is from Europe. So a lot of our documents, we also have the Italian, German, Portuguese documents all there in that portal. We also have an agency portal that if they get any travel advisor that contacts us, they can get a username and email for this agency portal that where they can find availability, as well as they can hold cabins up to 5 days before reaching out to us. Mm-hmm. So if there's some clients out there that kind of want that turnover more fast, then they can hold those cabins, be like, I already have your cabin number, and then reach out to us to continue the confirmation of that reservation. And then lastly, for people who love certificates, we actually have a specialized training course where if you take about 45 minutes out of your day for the travel advisors that want to learn more about our product, they'll get a certificate being certified to sell Australis cruises. So those are three very big tools that we've seen travel advisors use and love. So yeah, especially the certificate. A lot of people like having a certificate. So
okay. Well, that sounds great, and it sounds a great way to understand Australis and what you do. Lynn, you can close it out. Same thing for Hurtigruten, and what are the resources you have for travel advisors, and where can they go to find great advice on how to sell better?
Well, a couple things. Natalie, when I was a travel advisor, I became a specialist. So you're right. I'm an Australis specialist as well. So I got that certificate.
There you go.
And I want to echo Kelly's sentiment. If I were back in the travel advisor realm, approach guides is only the bomb biggity and a bag of chips, kettle cooked. It is beyond easy. So if you are not sprinting virtually over to approach guides for content collections, you are doing yourself a disservice. So we have also joined approach guides, and we have amazing content collections about Northern Lights, Midnight Sun. So that is one resource. I'm also a self-prescribed influencer with my 366 subscribers on my YouTube channel, Adventure-Travel. I don't have hobbies, so I like to record evergreen day-by-day itinerary overviews because Hurtigruten is a brand that warrants education. We also have a travel advisor portal that is agentportal.hurtigruten.com. You can manage your bookings. We have a robust marketing tab. So every campaign we have customizable flyers, social media assets. We have evergreen quotation templates that you can use. And we have the advisor Facebook group as well. That's Hurtigruten Travel Partners, Americas, and in parentheses for travel advisors only, because we got a lot of people, non-advisors, try to join. So we have the YouTube, we have our advisor portal. Under the advisor portal, make sure that you are navigating the marketing tab. Utilize the advisor essentials because there's a lot of information, and we have compiled all the information into a couple of flyers. So that's what we call working smarter, not harder. If you want to subscribe to Adventure-Travel, I'm not going to be mad, and it could help you. These are consumer-facing videos. And of course, the last resource is myself and my counterpart in the West. Threaten me with a good time. I think you guys have gathered right now. I love to talk about Norway, love to talk about Hurtigruten. I'm from Norway, and I hired on back in 2016 with the cheeky Sarah Palin tagline. I could see the ships from my house because I grew up right along the Trondheimsfjord, watching the ships pass my house. So allow us to train your teams, host webinars. If you have groups, we're going to help you sell into the space with webinars. So just make sure you are reaching out to us. So Tiffany Kilgus in the West as well. So party of two.
I know her as well. Yes. Well, I got to tell you, thank you so much. You've all done a great job of explaining your exploration cruises. 3 great brands here, some very interesting places going all over the world, and also comfortably with great dining and great food. So this is great. And I would be remiss if I didn't urge everyone now to go down to our virtual trade show floor where all 3 of your companies have virtual booths. where there's going to be places where you can sign in, look at what they have to offer, and you're going to learn a lot more than hopefully. Well, I think we covered it all actually, but that's another story. You can find out more about all of these brands and how to sell them. Again, I want to thank you, all three of you, for spending some time with us today. And I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is the virtual roadshow selling adventure and exploration, in this case, travel.